Hello. Today I wanted to talk with you a little bit about social anxiety. It's something that I think a lot of people kind of know a little bit about, but I wanted to be able to provide some really specific details about some of the triggers, how it feels for people when they're experiencing it, some of the causes that can lead to it, and then some of the outcomes and maybe ways of helping a bit. So with social anxiety, everybody's familiar with being a little bit nervous before meeting someone new or before giving a presentation, but most people can get through it. The stress and the anxiety about these situations become a little bit too much to handle for people with social anxiety, and they might avoid them completely, altogether. So small things like making eye contact, holding on small talk, or being around others could seem so intimidating or scary that it's just avoided completely with social anxiety. So some of the triggers that can come about, and everybody struggles with social anxiety, has different reasons for dreading certain situations, but in general, some of the triggers that can be overwhelming is the fear of being judged from others or the risk of embarrassing themselves in front of their peers. So the thought of starting a conversation with someone or asking an employee at a store a question that they might need to know, giving their order to a server at a restaurant, all of these things can seem incredibly daunting for somebody who can struggle with social anxiety. And it's very common that, especially with the teens that I meet with, that their bodies respond to social situations as if they were in a physically unsafe and really threatening environment. So for them, it means that even just thinking about an interaction that they dread could mean their heartbeat is racing, their muscles go all tense, they're dizzy or they're lightheaded, or they have a lot of GI, like stomach problems, of butterflies in their stomach or needing to run to the restroom or having an upset stomach. A lot of times it can also mean trouble breathing. We get the really high chest breaths that are really rapid and shallow instead of being able to breathe a little bit more regularly. So that's kind of how it feels, or the experience that they can go through. The cause is a little bit difficult because there's no one cause for social anxiety. A lot of times it's a little bit more of a combination of genetics and experiences, and it can become more prevalent around 13 years of age. So if a close family member has anxiety or social difficulties, then somebody's more at risk of having it themselves. If they've been in really bad social experiences where they've been bullied or teased, or they have some really significant embarrassing moments that stand out for them in their mind, they're going to be more likely to pay attention to social situations and be fearful of them in the future. So what comes from this, though, even though we say, okay, they don't like being around people, the outcome can really prevent somebody from living their life to its fullest. They can avoid situations where most other people would consider them normal, like day-to-day activities, like I mentioned, going to the grocery store, going to a restaurant, being able to go to school and sit in a classroom. So when social situations like that are avoided, it can really negatively affect their personal relationships, their involvement in enjoyable activities, and it can lead to some low self-esteem, some depressed mood, poor social skills, really being oversensitive to some criticism from others sometimes, even if it's just neutral feedback, it could be perceived as criticism. So when we get to, okay, what do we do with all of this information, with everything that somebody's going through or struggling with? The answer is therapy, most likely. I work with teenagers and I work with a lot of young adults to address these negative thoughts that are associated with their social fears. We work to challenge old ways of thinking and identify new, more helpful beliefs, and then we practice those. And we take small steps towards connecting with other people socially, building upon each success that we're able to have. And then as we're reviewing and reevaluating, we kind of figure out how well are these approaches working, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and we're able to continually adapt our approaches and change our goals. Social anxiety often responds pretty well to cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's an approach that I kind of come from. So we're able to see improvements in a fairly brief period of time, relatively. You think how many months, years did it take to get to where we're at? So brief, at least several months of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, we could expect to see some significant improvement in the social anxiety piece. So if you're interested in discussing social anxiety, whether therapy could be helpful for you or a family member, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to discuss the topic. Thanks.